All right, let's talk about something that can feel, well, a little dry: security standards. But what if I told you we're not going to get bogged down in technical jargon? Today, we're talking about one thing and one thing only: how to build trust. We're going to break down a framework called ISO 27001 and show you how it can be seriously one of your best tools for winning and keeping clients. So let's get into it. Okay, picture this. You're this close to landing your biggest client yet. The deal is right there on the table. But then they ask that one question: how do we know our data is safe with you? Now, you can start rattling off a list of all the fancy software you've bought, right? Or you could show them something that's globally recognized, something that just speaks for itself. And that right there is where ISO 27001 comes into play. So let's get right to it. What even is this thing? Let's just forget all the complicated terms for a minute. The easiest way to think about ISO 27001 is like this: it's the international blueprint for building a secure organization. That's it. It's a whole system for managing information security. And I mean everything, from your firewalls and software all the way down to who has a key to the office. And honestly, this whole thing breaks down perfectly with this super simple analogy: building a secure house. Think about it. The ISO 27001 standard itself, that's your blueprint. It tells you how to build the thing. Then you have the clauses, specifically clauses 4 through 10. These are the mandatory parts. They're the foundation, the walls, the roof, the doors. You have to have them. And finally, you've got something called Annex A, that's your toolbox. It's filled with all the good stuff: the locks, the security cameras, the alarm systems that you get to choose from to protect what's actually inside the house. And this is the part that really matters, okay? Getting that ISO 27001 certification isn't just some boring exercise in ticking boxes. It's so much more. It's like having a brand name for security that everyone all over the world recognizes. When you tell a potential client, hey, we're ISO 27001 certified, they instantly get it. They know you're serious. It's a massive, massive trust signal. Okay, so to make all of this really concrete, we're going to follow the journey of a company we'll call the X Consulting firm. We're going to watch them go from zero to fully certified. This way, we can see exactly how they use that blueprint to build their secure house, step by step. Now this journey, it's typically a pretty structured process, right? We're looking at about 16 weeks here. But I got to tell you, the most important part, the one that makes or breaks the whole thing, is that very first step: project initiation. Before you write a single line of policy, before you install anything, you absolutely must have commitment from the top. Seriously, if your leadership isn't bought in, the project is probably dead before it even starts. All right, as we start digging into the nuts and bolts of the standard, there is one single word you have to burn into your brain. I'm not kidding. It's the most important word in the entire document. And that word is shall. So why is this tiny word so important? Because in the world of ISO standards, when you see the word shall, especially in those clauses 4 through 10 we mentioned, it is not a suggestion. It means you must do this, period. These are the non-negotiables. Going back to our analogy, these are the strong walls and the secure doors of your house. They're the foundation you absolutely positively have to build to get certified. Okay, so our foundation is set. We know what's mandatory. Now we can get into the really critical planning phase. This is where our aspirant firm actually starts designing its security system. And this is key. They're designing it based on their specific business needs, because this is never ever a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. All right, lean in, because this is a piece of pro-level advice that will save you so much time and money. You have to do these things in this exact order. First, you define your scope. What are we actually protecting here? Is it the whole company, just one product line, the New York office? You got to decide. Only after you know your scope, then you do a gap assessment to see where you stand today. If you do it the other way around, you'll waste a ton of energy analyzing stuff that wasn't even in scope to begin with. So during their assessment, our X firm flags a huge risk, and it's a classic, right? the very real possibility of someone getting unauthorized access to their customer data. This isn't some abstract idea, it's a tangible threat that could literally destroy their business and their reputation. Okay, so you found the risk. Now what? Well, that leads you to a really practical question. We've got this very specific threat, and over here we have our Annex, a toolbox, which is filled with all these different security controls. So the question is, which tools do we pull out of the box to fix this specific problem? This whole decision-making process gets captured in a super important document called the Statement of Applicability, or SOA for short. It's pretty straightforward. So for that unauthorized data access risk, they look in their toolbox and select the control for secure logon procedures. Makes sense, right? But check this out. For a different risk, like physical server theft, they might actually exclude a control for a physical security perimeter, and they have to write down why. In this case, because all their servers are hosted in the cloud. The SOA has the master list of what you're doing, what you're not doing, and the justification for every single choice. All right, the blueprint is drafted, the strategy is set. Now it's time to actually start building. This is the phase where we turn all those plans into real-world action. We're talking about implementing the controls, writing up the policies and procedures, and this part is absolutely crucial, getting the people trained up. Okay, another pro tip, and this is a big one that auditors are always looking for. You need to know the difference between a document and a record. A document is the plan. Think of your access control policy. A record, well, that's the proof. It's the log file that shows who accessed what and when. The policy says what you'll do, the record proves you did it. And trust me, an auditor doesn't just want to see your plan, they're going to ask for the proof. They're going to ask for the records. And just to give you a sense of scale, that Annex, a toolbox we keep talking about, it has 93 different controls you can choose from. And we're not just talking about techie stuff like firewalls and antivirus. It covers 4 main areas: people, physical, organizational, and technological. It's a truly holistic approach to security. So fast forward a bit. The house is built, the security system is humming along. We're done, right? Not even close. And this is a huge point. ISO 27001 is not a one-and-done project. It is a living, breathing system. Getting that certificate isn't the finish line, it's really more like the starting pistol for a race of continual improvement. So, what does living in the house actually look like in practice? Well, it means you're constantly monitoring how things are performing. You're regularly conducting your own internal audits to find weak spots before someone else does. You're holding management reviews to make sure everyone's still on board. It creates this powerful cycle of improvement that lets you evolve and adapt as new threats pop up. And hey, to make this super practical for you, here are the big ones. These are some of the core mandatory documents that an external auditor is absolutely going to ask to see on day one. Think of it as your certification cheat sheet. You're going to need that ISMS scope statement, your main information security policy, the risk assessment report, that statement of application we talked about, and proof, the records of your internal audits and management reviews. And as you go on this journey, please remember one last piece of advice, and it's a simple one. Security starts with keeping it simple. You know, a super complex system that nobody on your team understands or uses correctly is way less secure than a simple, practical one that people actually follow. Effectiveness will beat complexity every single time. So let's leave you with this question to think about. When it comes to your own organization, is your security just a random collection of tools you've bought over the years? Or is it a trusted living system, a well-built secure house that doesn't just protect you, but actually goes out and helps you win business? Because that is the real power of doing ISO 27001 right.